I've virtually concluded the book of James in my devotions, but I can't leave it without making reference with you to James chapter 5:16, which talks about the prayer of a righteous man and how it has dynamic power in its working. That verse captivated me as a young Christian, that prayer releases amazing power. I think we don't really take that seriously. We take sometimes the duty of saying our prayers, like some sort of religious habit you need to get into. And we haven't necessarily taken on board that prayer really does release power. I often quote this verse when I'm praying. I kind of argue it before God. I say to God, Lord, you said I am releasing dynamic power. You've said it, Lord. I'm praying now. I'm releasing power into this situation. I argue my case, which I think is what we're invited to do. We're invited to pray. I think sometimes we maybe get disappointments, and we read books about unanswered prayer, and we read references to, well, if it be thy will, and we kind of soften it, and we read things about, well, sometimes God says no, and you think, well, what's the point really? He'll say no, is it his will? And I think we're not sufficiently persuaded that we have a weapon, an amazing weapon of prayer, which can affect situations dynamically. I honestly have been persuaded of that over many years, and I thank God for the many times when prevailing prayer has won through, sometimes in a corporate setting with a church at prayer, which is one of the most exciting places you could ever be, and sometimes on my own, just praying through a thing and seeing God do it, because God promises it releases dynamic power. That's how he says it. It's releasing power, and it says in John chapter 15, you didn't choose me, I chose you. I appointed you to go and bring forth fruit. None of us chose God. We were dead in our trespasses and sins. He awakened us. He called us from our death. He selected us, made us alive, and then invested us with power. So he said, so whatever you ask in my name, I'll do it. I think, Lord, I'm appointed to this holy calling. You chose me and appointed me to be fruitful, and you said to me, whatever I ask in your name. And so it's a terrific commission. It's part of what we're appointed to do. It's part of the talent that he wants us to reproduce and multiply. It's a mighty weapon. It talks about Elijah, and I think I might talk to you about Elijah in the next few of these little devotionals in the morning. I've just been arrested by this again. And it's interesting that Elijah was happy to demonstrate that his God was the authentic God by saying to the prophets of Baal, you get an answer to prayer. And they couldn't. And then he stood there before the whole nation and said, Lord, now come, demonstrate you are the authentic God. And fire fell. God is happy to demonstrate that he's the real God by answering prayer. He's happy to do it. Now we'll look at some of the provisos in the next couple of days, but I want us to not throw away or regard carelessly this phenomenal weapon that God has given us. Let me ask you, do you see your prayer as a powerful weapon? God says it is. It has dynamic power. Let's take advantage of this extraordinary weapon God has given us. God bless you through another day.